Hi everyone, it's Monica and welcome back to Tailor Made Cards for You. Today I'm going to be sharing with you this burlap panel that I made using some fun elements from the Tim Holtz Collection, as well as this great vintage picture from my family collection. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what worked and what didn't, and then I'm going to let you enjoy the process while listening to some fun Christmas music. The ink spray that I'm using is from Dilutions, and it's called Postbox Red. And this red is very vibrant and a wonderful Christmas color. So I thought it would work great on my burlap panel. It did cover very well, and I was really happy once I had actually sprayed it and let it dry. I didn't realize the problems I would have with using this spray until I actually started creating on the burlap. And the first problem that I had was that the texture paste that I used actually, the ink saturated into the texture paste. So when it was dry completely, I didn't end up with white texture paste. I ended up with an orange color paste. So that was the first problem that I experienced. I didn't think it would be a problem. I figured I would just go ahead and color over it. But because the ink spray was so vibrant, it really did take over the paste. So if I were to do this project again, I probably would work with the Tim Holtz Distress sprays, and that is what he used on his projects. The texture paste that I'm using is from Ranger, and it spreads on really nicely. One thing you want to make sure when you are using the texture paste is to not let it get too clumpy. And the way that I know that I've got a nice smooth finish is you can actually read the words. If it's too clumpy, you won't actually be able to read the words. So you want to make sure you get it nice and smooth, and then you pull it off to let it sit and dry for a while. You can see that the color of the texture paste did turn to that orange color that I had talked about earlier. So while I would have liked to have started out with a white texture paste, the ink from the red burlap saturated it a little bit more than I would have liked. I thought I was going to be able to fix it using some distress ink, but the vibrancy disappeared. It made it more of a muted color. So while I wasn't completely happy with the result, I just kept going to see where it was going to take me. Now, while I wasn't completely happy with the results that I got from the ink spray and the texture paste, I think it's important that I show you things that don't work as well as things that do work. As an artist, you never know what's going to work, so you have to try different products and you have to play with them. You're not going to always get the result that you want, but at least you know how the product will react to certain items, and this is what will help you get better in your creations and understand your products a little bit more. The ephemera that I'm using is from the Tim Holtz Christmas Collection, as well as from Graphic 45. The Ho 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 tag is from Graphic 45, and I used it to frame this family portrait of my mother-in-law and her two siblings. I really love this photo. It reminds me a lot of Tim Holtz's Found Relatives stack. And what's special about this is it actually is a relative of mine, which makes the creation of the project that much more meaningful to me. I'm also using this Santa flashcard from Tim Holtz's Holiday Flashcard Collection. I wasn't really sure how big of a fan I would be of these flashcards, but I've used them a lot this Christmas season, and I have a feeling I'm going to be buying some of those other sets as well, because they really are a nice addition to cards as well as projects. I also used my distress tool to fray up all of the edges of my ephemera, and then I went in and added some walnut stain to age it just a bit more. Now, one more thing that I will say before letting you listen to some of this Christmas music that I promised you is whenever you are putting together a collage, you want to lay out the products before you actually glue it down. because these collages are like puzzle pieces. And if you've listened to some of my other videos on the collage cards, you've heard me say you need to just move around your pieces to find the perfect fit. A lot of times off camera, I will play with my ephemera and my items to have them fit perfectly, so I have an idea of where I'm going. So as you can see, I'm putting these elements together pretty easily, and the layout seems to be working rather quickly. I do take time off camera to actually put together the assembly of the collage, but it does take me a little bit more time. It doesn't come together as easy as it is on this actual video. So I will let you listen to some Christmas music while we finish up, and then I'll come back and talk to you a bit more about the collage when I get towards the end. Now through the gluing process, you probably have seen that red ink has also gotten onto my fingers when I'm trying to paste down the ephemera. And that was the second problem that I ran into in using this ink from Dylusions. Again, I'm not knocking the ink. I think the ink spray is beautiful and it's very vibrant, and I've actually used it on my cards. I just don't think it was the right medium for this burlap, because when I used it with my PPA, which is my perfect paper adhesive, the ink started to run and get on the ephemera. And the overall look turned out okay in the end, because it did help grunge up the paper, so it worked out in the end. It probably isn't the route I'll go on the next one that I make. I will definitely be using the Tim Holtz Distress ink because it will react to water, and I don't think it will react like an ink as much as this dilution ink spray does, and I don't think that it will run onto my ephemera. Now the other thing that I would change on the next project that I make is I won't be using the PPA adhesive. This does work for some of my other paper collages, but I wasn't completely happy with the way that it stuck on the burlap with my ephemera. So I probably will be using the multi-medium mat that Tim Holtz recommends on his projects. I've never used the multi-medium, but I did research it after creating this burlap, and I think that probably will be the better product to use for some of my mixed media projects. And I plan on doing several mixed media projects in the future, so I think it's an investment that will be well worth the money. Now for gluing down my metal objects, I'll always use my glue gun because that seems to work the best. But one thing I would caution you is when you do put hot glue onto a metal item, it does seep through and burn your fingers. So be very careful when you're working with a hot glue gun and metal objects because it will burn your fingers. And I did get a few blisters when creating this project, but that is just part of the artistic process and I just accept that. Along with the metal objects, I also added a few buttons that I had in my stash and those little green stamps that you see on the left-hand side. I actually picked those up at an antique shop and I was really happy that I finally had a chance to use them on a project. As always, I will leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this burlap panel, along with the links to the stores. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you head out. And if you've enjoyed the video, I would certainly appreciate a thumbs up. I hope that the tips that I've left you tonight will be helpful in some of your future projects and give you some ideas of how some of these products actually work and react to different items. I would love it if you left a comment because I love seeing your feedback. And if you have any ideas for any videos of the future, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll certainly take those into consideration when planning out my 2017 video series. Alright everybody, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and I will talk to you soon. Thanks again for stopping by.